Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast. And we're flying solo today. We got just one guest on here today. You recognize him as a common, regular co-host here on the Shed Geek podcast. I feel like I need my little button turned on where I can clap for you. Hey, Travis Beachy.
Good to be here. Always great to be here. I'll take the name co-host. It's always good conversation with you, man. It's good to be here again.
It's just good to create dialogue. It's good to create conversation that creates thought.
Yeah.
Challenges people, maybe.
Yep.
From time to time, things
Gets
like
people
that.
thinking,
Yeah.
you know, if you can just get people thinking and let people formulate their own thoughts, come to their own conclusions where, I'm never really interested in trying to convince someone to believe the way I believe, particularly outside of a relationship with Jesus, but if you can ask questions to get people thinking, even in sales, you even do that in sales, get your client thinking about things that would help them solve their problem and have a better outcome. That's a great little sales tactic.
Well, and what a cool opportunity the way podcasting has like creeped up on us into mainstream where, it used to be like talk radio.
Yep.
Was a big thing. For me, I love to listen to talk radio. I used to be an avid listener of talk radio. I still do some, but for the most part, podcasting is what I'll listen to, or audiobooks, or whatever. But just anything that I especially like dialogue, because whenever you have two people having conversation, like that creates more thought. Yeah. And I'm just happy that podcasting has like kind of creeped up into the mainstream to where it's valid now.
Yeah.
It's valid.
Well, it was like it came out, then I feel like it died off. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what the years are there, but a while there it was just kind of a little bit dead. And then it really had a resurgence in the last, I don't know, 10 years, 8 years, to where it's here to stay now, I think, which is cool. How are you feeling after how many episodes?
Oh, gosh.
You got a count?
We do. We've got a registry. I want to say around 200. Okay. For sure.
It's impressive.
Yeah. It's definitely around 200. It may be 200 plus, maybe 200 minus, but it's within 10 of 200 recorded. Yeah. And then, of course, we try to record way ahead of time. Yeah. As best we can. Announce our travels when we're coming around, and definitely want to talk to more people. Yeah. So I encourage people. I try to reach out in the newsletter, Facebook, things like that. The conversations just come about so many different ways. Yeah. But I think that even shy folks like to sit down and talk. And the only difference is we're putting a microphone to it. So there's a lot of mystery around what is a podcast. Yeah. Is it audio only? Is it video? Is it both? And I think the answer is yes. Yes, exactly. To all of those. I was
going to say yes. Yeah. And by the way, if you're watching this, listening to this, and you're like, Shannon's posted that he's coming through your area, and you're like, it'd be kind of cool to be on. I'm not sure. Just do it. Just do it. He's great to talk with. If you see that he's going to be in your area, or if you see him somewhere, even if you feel like you don't have that great of a story to tell, we've all got a story to tell. Just get on. He's easy to talk to, and get on here and tell your story.
I appreciate that. That's the check is in the mail. I promise you. No worries. But I've had people tell me, they said, well, this is a lot easier than I thought. I made it something different in my mind. And I'm like, generally speaking, people just like to sit down and talk about sheds, but even your unique story, God made you unique and individual. And I always tell people, I challenge them to say, don't think that you don't have anything to say that would add value to people's day. Yeah. Because everybody's got a story, and the pressure is on me to ask questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to come on here and create your own content. Yep. You just come on. Yep. And the challenge is on me, and I'll typically keep those always surrounded around sheds, family, faith. Yeah. Business, sales, entrepreneurship. And then like all of these other little arteries, but I'll kind of get a read for the person. Usually go out to eat and kind of get an idea of who they are, or listen to their story. Try to be a good listener so you can be a good talker. Yeah. And then ask questions I think the audience would want. I'm sure people probably want me to either go deeper sometimes and But I'm like, well, I want to make sure it doesn't get gossipy.
Right.
But then some people...
You've done a great job with that.
I appreciate some of the feedback I've gotten. One of the number ones, and those who are listening to this who agree with this will laugh at this, because I've had several people tell me this. They're like, hey, Shannon, if you ask them a question, shut up and let them answer it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, gosh, I'm so guilty of this thing.
Yeah.
And then I get on the podcast and I do it again.
Yep.
And it's one of those things I'm trying to fix in myself. Yeah. I'm so used to having to fill the space that I'm just so prepared to talk.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of value in shutting up and listening.
Yeah. You need to kind of put your therapist hat on. You know, you ask a question, they say something.
Yes.
How did that make you feel? Or where are you at now in relation to where, are you where you thought you were going to be when you started this out? And just how's that going for you? And that's all therapists do is they just try to pull information out of you because the answer is within you. So you might just have to go into put your therapist hat on.
Well, I always say that some of the best podcasts exist around microphones that'll never hear them.
That's right.
Sitting at the shed hauler bash.
Yep.
Or a shed hauling event, going to the expo, sitting at a dinner table, talking to a company.
Yep.
It's like, oh man, that's dynamite. But some of those things do offer some competitive advantages you don't want to just put out there to everybody, how I got started or how this or whatever. So I always just tell people, share what they want to share. Nothing's live. It's recorded. We can edit. We'll send them a recording of it first for them to approve it. If there's just something, we've had most people, 80% or so, say, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just roll with it.
Yeah.
And then there's a few that's like, hey, I kind of want to hear that and make sure I didn't say something that I regret or I wouldn't have normally said or was in the moment or didn't sound as good as I wanted it to. So we're sensitive to all of that. It's, so.
Yeah, well, you got a fine line to walk between being sensitive to that and still being able to go deep with conversation, because that's where people do get value from that, because there's a lot of nuance in this business, and there's a lot of nuance to each of our individual businesses and each of our individual lives, and sometimes we feel like we are the only one that's dealing with a certain situation, and when you can hear someone talk about it on a podcast or somewhere else, then you feel like, oh man, that's how they handle that, or that's how they're thinking about it, and can kind of give you some guidance through it.
My favorite things are whenever somebody messages me and says, I loved that episode. And I'm like, man, I didn't feel like, we went real hard on that. I didn't feel like we went real strong on that. And they'll say, that was some of the most insightful things I knew. So I always try to use that as ammunition for when I do get criticism. It's usually constructive, but otherwise, if somebody is like, well, you need to have more of this, you need to have more of that. I'm like, man, go talk to this guy, because this guy said he loved that.
Yeah.
So we got to remember that we're trying to cover the whole industry.
Yeah.
So not every episode's going to be for everybody.
That's right.
I get that.
That's right.
That's right. And not just the whole industry, but even people outside the industry who have a different perspective.
Yeah.
It's good to sometimes get out of your own ecosystem and have somebody else come in. And
that's right.
So
yeah,
we should let you ask questions on this. We didn't script anything for this.
No.
Ask away and we'll see what kind of conversation. I'm so used to coming up with questions or conversation.
Yeah.
I'm curious at what sometimes the guests think. And I usually save that for the end here lately.
I like how you have that segment.
Introducing the Real Steel Bird's Mouth Notcher, the ultimate solution for shed builders, both large and small, seeking an efficient and safe way to put a bird's mouth notch in their truss. Our machine is designed to make your truss construction process easier and faster while ensuring the highest degree of accuracy and precision. At Real Steel, we understand that every shed builder has unique needs and requirements, and that's why we designed our bird's mouth notcher to be highly adjustable and customizable. It can easily accommodate angles from 15 to 45 degrees and can cut up to 1 5/8 inch deep, making it perfect for a wide range of truss configurations. Our bird's mouth notcher is powered by a 7.5 horsepower electric motor, which provides a smooth and reliable cutting experience every time. It can handle 2 boards at one time, and the boards are securely held in place by an air clamp, ensuring that your truss components stay in place while they are being notched. The cutting head features indexable knives, which means you can easily rotate the knives when they become dull, saving you both time and money in the long run. Safety is our top priority, which is why our bird's mouth notcher is equipped with a built-in dust hood, that has a 4-inch port to collect sawdust, keeping your workspace clean and safe. Additionally, the angles are set by a hand crank, and we've included 2 battery-powered digital readouts that allow you to precisely measure the angle and depth of cut, so you can achieve the exact notch you need with ease. Contact us today at realsteel.com or call Darren at 570-713-0665. Real Steel, production machines for the wood industries.
I'm going to ask this question without, just think about it without prejudice. I know you have sponsors on here and people that pay you money to be on here, and rightfully so. That's great. But who do you look around the industry and really have a lot of respect for right now? Who's kind of moving and shaking in a way that you think is really sustainable for the future of the industry? Who's kind of skating to where the puck's going to be in 5 years? You think anybody on your radar that a young buck could kind of look up to or could kind of follow? Or just someone that is really kind of moving and grooving in a way that's really respectful, but really effective, and maybe they haven't really popped off on the scene yet because they're laying the foundation of what they're trying to build. But anything come to mind?
Great question, and I would say it's probably that answer could almost be split into a couple different ways, because I don't think there's a one size fits all to do it this way. I mean, some obvious answers that come to mind in terms of, say, like manufacturing.
Yeah.
So in terms of manufacturing, I'm just really impressed by like Westwood and Mike Yoder and Arlen, what they do. Arlen Real. Sorry, Arlen. Arlen said something that was really cool to me whenever we were out there. We were talking about how they do like their cabins. They added a cabin line to their line, and when they were previously Liberty, we done their an interview with them in sheds, and then they created Westwood and rebranded and then added the cabin line to that. And while we were doing the interview, we were talking about how they became modular certified, and how that was a whole process.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, man, what an opportunity for somebody to actually learn that and then train that.
No kidding.
For the people who want to go through that process, especially if they can learn per state, because there's a lot of different, things that you're going to have to figure out for each state. And as we're getting more excited about it, Arlen stopped and he said, well, that's a great opportunity, but we have to ask ourselves, are we educators? And is that what our goal is and our purpose? And I was just like, wow, that goes to show you how you can get lost in a good moment. Heard a pastor one time say, you don't have to buy everything that's on sale. You can still go broke on sales.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good point. So just because it's opportunity doesn't mean you should always take it.
Yeah.
So learning how to say no. John Bevere's got a really good book on that called Good or God.
Yeah.
And if you ever get a chance to read it, it's really good.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like I see them doing like a lot of good things, having just cool ideas, and seemingly everything they do works. I would say as far as like people I respect, there's tons of people I respect, people who've just gone before and trailblazed the way and the opportunity for us to be in it. And if I started naming one, I'd offend someone if I didn't name them all.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
Possibly if they think that much of what I have to say.
Yeah.
But so many people, in terms of like sales, you do a great job. You have a wonderful social media presence. I can tell that you're super active, and I can tell that you're passionate about the sales process. And that's kind of what brought us together on other projects, right? Because of that reason. Anthony Mitchell, obviously a guy who's passionate about, what sales look like in the shed industry. He said many times over, it's, this isn't a filler job or stepping stone to get you to a real job. This is a real job. Jeremy Martin said that several times. He tells people, hey, if you want to make what a doctor's salary is, did you know you could do that selling sheds? And you just never even knew that was possible.
Yeah.
So those are pitches that they use. And it may not be money that drives everybody, but people think of that when they think of a doctor. They think of that status.
That's right.
So tons of people that I obviously appreciate. But yeah, I think I think really the question is where is the industry going and how are people setting themselves up uniquely to take advantage of that? Yeah. I think that's probably more my answer, maybe.
Yeah, love it. Now, what about outside the industry? I know you're a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. I know you. I know you've got some other people that you enjoy. Who's some whether it's on the sales side of things, whether it's mindset, whether it's marketing, whether it's just entrepreneurship. Who are you really enjoying right now? Putting in your ears when you're not editing a podcast or doing interviews.
So I do like Gary V. He's got a little bit of a mouth,
a little spicy
on him. So that's not going to be everybody's favorite. In terms of like motivational speaking, I really like Les Brown. He's one of my favorite speakers for sure. I like Dave Goggins. Dave Goggins is a little rough around the edges too, but he real intense. He's definitely very different than like a Les Brown. He's probably like a Dan Bongino kind of guy. Dan Bongino is a podcaster, former Secret Service agent for the president, and started a podcast. Actually used to own Parler. A lot of you guys have heard of Parler.
Oh yeah.
January 6th took that away. Yeah. Like January 6th is going to show up in this podcast now, and the bots are going to call it. We need to call it something else. Yeah. So I definitely like them though, but yeah, he was a major investor owner in Parler, and that went away. So, but I do like his podcast. As far as like business goes, I think the newest guy that I really love to listen to is like Simon Sinek. Anything that Simon Sinek is really good. I love Finding Your Why. Jocko, Extreme Ownership. That's a really cool book. I actually like a couple different podcasts. One's called The Communication Guys because I'm a big fan of communication.
Yeah, you're big. That's a big passion of yours.
Yeah. So like that, I've listened to several 100 of their episodes. There's just, and then I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah.
A mixture between business, sales, marketing, all of that stuff, entrepreneurship related. And then some fiction. I like anything that's local. I'm reading a book right now over Southern Illinois that my wife actually turned me on to, and it's just about like stuff that's happened in our area, and I don't know why they always like seem to involve like crime.
Yeah, so. That's neat. Learn about the history of your area and what's been going on. Yeah, a lot of good stuff there.
Managing your rent-to-own contracts just got easier with RTO Smart. Designed by leaders in the rent-to-own storage industry, RTO Smart was handcrafted to enable you with the tools needed to manage your own contracts your way without using a third-party rent-to-own company. RTO Smart is your one-stop shop, allowing you to generate contracts and manage customer accounts from start to finish while maintaining simplicity and flexibility. Call us today at 316-618-9396 or visit our website at rtosmart.com to schedule a live demo and discover why RTO Smart may be right for your business.
Next question. What is the big step? Diana coming on board with you, leaving her job.
You got to quit calling her Diana. She's going to choke you. It's Deanna.
Oh, Deanna. Sorry. Yeah, you can just punch me in the face right now.
Sorry.
So, Deanna, sorry about that. My deepest apologies.
She's going to be heartbroken.
Yeah. Leaving her teaching job for a long time, coming on board with you full time. You got your son along on this trip. How's that transition been? You guys get along, work together well? Do you fight a lot? Do you kind of have your own roles? Talk to us about being in business with your wife.
Oh man, that's great. So it's Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day. I was
trying to throw you a softball, Shannon.
To my Valentine. Yeah. You did good. So me and Deanna have dated since I was 15.
Oh, wow.
So we got married at 19, but we met in high school, and high school sweethearts. And she actually had to come pick me up on our first date. I didn't have a driver's license yet. So
let's go.
Got me an older lady.
Sugar mama.
Yeah, sugar mama. So she's 11 months older than me. And we've just been through a lot. you know, especially her. I mean, she's had to deal with me, first of all. But second of all, she's just had so many things and health and just different things. And she worked for early childhood education for 10 years. And then she worked for the school. She was actually secretary, executive assistant for the superintendent at the high school. So she's good at like data and very technical components. So is my son. Troy is like, he's, you know, I break something, I'm like, fix it, please, fix it, you know, technology wise, especially. He just picks up on it so much faster. He's from that generation that seems to. We have our roles. Yes. They allow me to talk and communicate with everybody I'm talking to, and they pull a lot of the hard work. As far as me and Deanna, we've been a well-oiled machine for a long time. We work well together. I don't hesitate about working with her. She makes things easier because I work with her. She fixes problems. We work very good because we're opposite each other. And Troy fits that mold too. My daughter probably takes after my personality more.
Yeah, I was going to ask what her personality is like.
Yeah, artsy. You know, that's not to suggest that like it's all one and none of the other.
Right. Yeah.
But both of the, like, Troy's a math whiz. I mean, he's just super analytical whenever it comes to like working things out in his brain. Very smart, very quiet, you know, and Aaliyah's a little bit more loud, but just creative and likes drawing and things like that. Maybe a little bit more emotional, you know, wears her heart on her sleeve a little bit more. So there's a mixture of all of us in that.
Yeah.
But I love working with them. Troy coming along has been a blessing to us. Yeah, he's been taking care of a lot of the social media management. So for those of you who see some of the stuff coming out, he's helping do a lot of that, and he's just a joy to be around. He's 19 years old, and he's just awesome. It's so fun to have him along.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, you guys, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize how much work goes into a podcast, and for you to, you know, kind of be doing it solo before she was coming on. I mean, I know you had some help with some editing and stuff like that, but I can imagine it's much smoother now, and you kind of have your system down to where you both get to do more of what you enjoy. I know the editing part of it is not your.
It's not my thing. Kyle did the editing whenever we first came on. Of course, we weren't doing video then. And video takes it to a whole different level. You know, it's a big investment, and it's a lot of work too. So I did slowly learn it.
Yeah.
And then I had Brent along for a time, that helped me. And then whenever Deanna joined full time, she was just able to do that. We kind of gave Troy an episode, and he figured it out in a day. And I'm like, see, that's just pitiful.
Yeah.
Like, you know, took me a month to know what he learned in a day. So they do have kind of those defined roles now where they work really well together. So they'll just edit these, and you're right. Nobody probably realizes like, oh, you're just getting on a mic and talking. And I'm like, man, I wish it were that simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
These guys work really hard behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Really
well,
hard.
you guys do a great job. Not, you know, I'm not, certainly not trying to gas you guys up, but you guys really do a good job. It's been awesome to have you, what you guys contribute to the industry, I think is amazing. And I know, you know, not everybody welcomes you with open arms, but I know, that's just part of life and part of, you know, I think if you're,
well, let's talk about those people. No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
You got 5 hours. No. But I think it's a great testament to, you know, you don't need everybody to be on board with you, whether you have regardless of what business you're doing. You know, you have to believe in it in your heart. You have to be passionate about it, and you just got to go. And some people will cheer you on. Some people will just watch in the shadows, and other people will try to tear you down. And that's with anything in life.
Yeah.
And so. You know, I think you've done a lot of good for the industry, opened up a lot of conversation. So I'm passionate about the industry continuing to mature and grow, and you're a big part of that.
Yeah, it's really been fun. I mean, it's nice that there's been so many people, again, trailblaze the opportunity for us. I mean, when your dream is young, it can be crushed very easy. So if you're not careful, you'll let naysayers come in and that just, and then once you establish something, it's kind of weird because, at first, most people embraced it. A couple of people didn't. I've had several people come to me since then and be like, man, I thought this was like the weirdest idea and would never work. Yeah. And now I listen to it all the time. And that blesses me. I got a picture from Willie Bricker the other day, North Mountain Structures, in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. He's been on the show. And he sent me a picture of his kids, 4 kids sitting around watching, the Shed Geek podcast on a laptop. That's and he's awesome. Like, they love watching the podcast and especially Ava, who I absolutely love. She's adorable. She's cute as a button. She's got little glasses. And he said, hey, she wants to meet you. And I was like, gosh, you don't even know. Like, just take my wallet now. I'd give that girl anything she wants. You know what I mean? She's so cute and had those little glasses. And I was like, man, you guys could win my heart over real quick. I was like, just tell me what that girl wants. Like, we'll buy her school supplies. What does she need? Yep. It just, when people tell you stuff like that, you forget that you're like, hey man, there's a purpose bigger than even those who aren't a fan. That's okay. Yeah. I like to still try to win them over. I still try to add value to their day too. For me, it wouldn't matter if it's the podcast or what it is, Travis. If you're in an industry, replace sheds with any word, computers, sodas, cards. It doesn't matter. If I was in that industry, I would be doing and learning all that I could to know about it. So if it was reading the magazines and the publications and going to the trade shows and going to events and listening to a podcast, whatever it was, I would probably just want to be all in on understanding all I can, because that's your work. Yeah. And while your work shouldn't completely define you, it's such a big part of you and who you are. And I couldn't imagine being just halfway in. I would want to be all the way in and learn and know as much as I can. And that's kind of, spells out a story of why this came to be, why we're doing it. It's because I already did that. I was like, man, I want to know. I reached across the rail to talk to my competition. I'd walk across the road. I would, I wanted to know about what they do. And as you know, with the shed industry, you got to be real careful real quick, because it's like some people welcome it, some don't. Mm-hmm. There's all these gentlemen's agreements. There's all these things that have gone back for years. And then there's all these scorned folks and situations. And if you're not careful, you get sucked right into it. I have been at times and you try to stay on the outside of it as best you can, but it's almost impossible. And Lord help you if you try to make $1, right? Yeah. Because somebody's going to have a thought on it. And it's like, so you have to manage and walk what you feel like is a tightrope. And then at the end of the day, you go in your prayer closet, you give it to God and you move on. Yep. Because if you don't, you'll be a bat case. That's right. A basket case. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know what a bat case is, but maybe you'll be one of those too. Yeah. So I think that's just kind of what I've done. And this thing has provided me the opportunity to do some really cool things, take my family and see the nation in many ways. Like, we've been to Seattle, we've been to Florida, we've been to New Hampshire, we've been down in Texas. I got to see the Baseball Hall of Fame because I was going through there, right? Yep. On the way to an interview, and I was like, are you kidding me? This is awesome. I love it. So like, just little stuff that comes up that you never thought would be possible. And really it just came from a position of like listening. Yeah. These people are saying they want something and more communication and more efforts. So just create something, and then find a way to monetize it eventually. Yeah. And it's really cool that it worked out. And I'm thankful to God that he's blessed it. Yeah. And I don't feel like if he tells me to move, I'll move tomorrow. Right. But until he does, I'll stay. Right. Yeah. And he gave me this cool opportunity, and I want to honor him through it. Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Love that. Well, that definitely comes through. Anything else you want to talk about? Oh, nothing in particular. Any? Do you want to rant? Do you feel like ranting about anything? I rant a lot as it is. Okay. Well, I was curious to get your thoughts on, sitting here in 2024, beginning of 2024. Where do you kind of see this whole sales, manufacturing, RTO, delivery, kind of those 4 components? Do you feel like those are going to continue to kind of be like that for the next while, or do you feel like there's going to be
a lot more consolidation where there's going to be a lot more in-house sales happening, less sales lots, more people doing their own rent-to-own, and more people trying to have their own drivers and more of that vertical integration versus the kind of the four component. I mean, there's quite a bit happening right now where there are people. There's a lot of just manufacturers and a lot of just salespeople, a lot of just haulers, and a lot of just rent to own. I know we've seen a lot of there's a lot of rent to own companies buying up manufacturing right now over the last couple years, and that has its benefits, has its drawbacks too. Any thoughts?
Yeah, big topic, like big conversation. So a lot of different answers to be dissected probably out of that. Everything changes. I mean, there's always the remnants of what was, that you can testify to. But generally speaking, the only thing that stays the same is change, right?
Yeah.
So like we know that change is continuing to move forward in the world, in industry, in entrepreneurship, in business, in ideas, in creative opportunities. So like, if you narrow that down to sheds, you can start talking about how we offer, this particular style of shed, and the conversation can jump within 3 or 4 minutes to like coming down to the economy. Next thing you know, it starts moving into the elections. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, you're talking about who's president. It's a very political conversation, and you're trying to figure out like what was Reagan's thing, trickle down economics. It's like, where does this trickle down from a conversation about an election year? But we do see even those things become very realistic, like where it's an election year and then everybody relaxes after because they could kind of plan for the next 4 years or whatever. So it's always an interesting dynamic to kind of figure out where people's mindsets are. But as just generally speaking, I do think there's a lot of movement in the industry right now. I won't say that there's saturation because I don't know that, especially after COVID, and maybe that's just because of the government subsidy. But I do believe that some companies are probably just not a fan of getting into learning about all of these different things that's necessary. Even some guys that I found, working with Dylan as a marketing specialist, he's amazing. And the way he describes things, sometimes I'm like, wow, that's poetry. That's awesome, dude. That's exactly what people need to understand, because we take a lot of time to like educate before we sell to somebody. And I think sometimes just saying, you may not know what question to ask, just ask it the way you know how, and we'll dissect that where we can talk about it. That's not to say we're smarter. It means if I were asking you how to build a shed, I would have to ask some pretty simple questions first, right? Like, well, what is a main board? I don't know what that is. Why is it like this? How come you do that? Same as if I'd done any other work. That's their specialty. That's what they do. So I think that people are beginning to embrace marketing more because of the way the world decides to shop.
Yeah.
I watched an interview with Jeff Bezos. I think he was on the Letterman show like back in 99. And they were like, so let me understand this. Like, this is like the 5th year in a row that you're like losing money. And he's like, yeah, we're not investing in the now. We're investing in the future of what we know is going to be a way that customers choose to shop in the future. Starting out with books, started adding a bunch of other items. Next thing you know, Amazon competes with Walmart.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a simple story to tell, but it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And I think that what's happening is the world is just, it does change with the addition of new technologies, like it or not, like it's changing, and we have to figure out what we do about it. And some say, well, I won't be involved. And I do think that from a retail perspective, that does change your opportunities. Does it mean that you can't get you a brick and mortar location on a busy 4-lane highway like you have here and do well? Of course you can do well.
Yeah.
Will you be able to expand that and grow that should you choose to? Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's going to be way harder, I think, than those who have digital assets and have a website that creates its own traffic called SEO, and that's its own 4-lane highway, and that you embrace different things like, Google ads and meta ads and video campaigns and stuff that we've been doing already.
Hi, I'm Dylan from the Shed Geek marketing team, and I want to address a common misconception about marketing. Often people approach us for just one service, like social media management, where we plan and schedule your monthly posts. While this is a valuable time saver, it's just one piece of your complete marketing strategy, much like a shed with its various components. Let's simplify it. Think of your social media channels and Google My Business as the foundation, similar to the runners of a shed. They support your digital storefront, your website, which is like the floor joists and band boards. To enhance your marketing, you'll need tools like Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, and Google Tags, which are like the walls. These tools help track the success of your campaigns, measuring form submissions, 3D shed creations, and phone calls generated by our ads. Now, let's talk about the roof. Meta and Google ad campaigns. These are the top layers that complete your marketing shed. While you may inquire about one specific service, remember, they all contribute to the overall structure of your marketing strategy. At Shed Geek Marketing, we're happy to work on one individual aspect, but our goal is to build a comprehensive marketing shed that will truly stand out in the digital landscape. If you're ready to talk about your marketing strategy that will take your shed business to the next level, just go to shedgeek.com and fill out a submission form or contact the Shed Geek for more information.
So I think that's a big change that the industry's still kind of getting used to. A lot of technology has launched, and I would even make the argument a lot of this technology has been faced with opposition from an otherwise conservative industry that supports it, but at the same time maybe doesn't understand it, so they just dismiss it.
Yeah.
And you know what happens whenever we don't understand something? We criticize it.
Yeah. Create fear around it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as opposed to going through the hard stuff of like learning it or why it works or how it could work, we criticize and move on. And so I think that even some of the more successful guys I've seen in this business have struggled to seemingly get some of that stuff off the ground because it takes a lot of education around it to make work. So that doesn't mean they're not moving on. So those things will stay in place and they will play out long term. In short, I do see a lot of change. I see some companies probably selling. You definitely probably see some of that with RTO. The RTO companies are like, man, we lost this potential customer or this long-term whatever to a different, RTO company for opportunity. So, easier to just go buy it, be vertically integrated. Let's buy that out. And then they can't change. And I'm not saying that's good, not saying it's bad. I have pretty well zero opinion on it. Yeah. Because I think the market does what it does. So just let it do what it does. And people will take from that what they will. Yeah. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, that's good thoughts. Yeah, it's good thoughts. There's just so many different ways and things that work in this industry. Like there's so many little different niches that you can be in, and just talking to Mark this morning, he's just in the niche of metal sheds. Yeah,
that's right.
And you can be in the niche of just on-site builds. You can be in the niche of very simple designs. You're targeting the RTO customer, and you're just all on volume.
Yep.
You can be in the niche of, some of these guys like, lap structures out in Pennsylvania, or Horizon Structures, or, any of these guys that just, fully, really custom, cool stuff. That's kind of their niche, and so there's a lot of different,
and you can make a living doing those things.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're moving sheds, you can make a living moving sheds, but then it's a whole different conversation if you want to own a fleet like Mervyn Vargas.
That's
right. If you want to have 8 or 10 trucks on the road and have one of the newest Pine Hill trailers out there that's super cool, you're like, that's a different business model. That guy's killing it, right? And it's like, well, but maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to just haul sheds for one company, and you can do that and typically do well.
Yeah.
So it's just a different business model. It's the same with the guy who is a manufacturer and sells, 1.7 a year, and he's got, 2 lots, and he's perfectly happy, and he has his workforce, and they're steady, and they're going to do that for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Or someone who's going to scale, and they're going to have 300 shed lots.
That's right.
you know, and they're going to be a major presence across the nation or whatever. Like those are just what separates one from the next. You know, probably vision, drive, execution.
Yeah.
All these things. Desire. Do they want to have that?
Yeah.
You know, do they want to do that? Some want to stay small. Some want to chase the world.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so.
Yeah. So, what are you seeing? What's been kind of the biggest aha for you? Or what do you think the industry needs to know about marketing now that you're doing that more with Shed Geek marketing? What's something that more people should just understand about marketing, attracting people to your business, and branding?
I appreciate the plug. You know, we interviewed, have an interview coming out soon with View Brands, and it'll be out before this one comes out, so they might have heard it already. And then, of course, we had a speaking engagement from a marketing perspective at the Shed U event. And one of the things I brought up was Buc-ee's. The reason I like to bring up Buc-ee's is because it's pretty simple. Like it's a love-hate here in the shed industry because you have a lot of haulers, a lot of truckers, and obviously you have to go down that road of talking about why they do that and different things. But generally speaking, it evokes an emotion. Yeah. When you hear Buc-ee's. And for the most part, you see the image, you kind of understand the logo. You might know the logo if I just say Buc-ee's right now, or DQ. Yep. Dairy Queen, the logo might just automatically come to mind, or McDonald's. You might see the golden arches. You know, so like where we always try to start is like building branding guidelines. So like if you don't have a logo and you know, you need to understand your color palettes and all these different things and why they matter, because as you get bigger, you'll need to brand more. And if you do branding correctly, you can actually spend less on marketing. Yeah. You know, because you don't have to market as heavy in the dollars directly to gaining a lead because your brand just stands for something.
What's a quick example of the difference in your mind between spending money on branding versus spending money on marketing in this industry?
So when you think of Kleenex, they're a tissue. Mm-hmm. When you think of Echo, they're a trimmer. But you hear people call it Weed Eater all the time, or Kleenex. Give me a Kleenex. Give me a Coke. They had to change the idea of what soda meant because soda was so small that soda was only 10% of what people called it back in the day. In the South, everybody called it pop. Yeah. Now it's like 80% of the country calls it soda, but they've had to really change the brand because most people would say, give me a Coke. Yeah. But a Coke was a brand. Yeah. So like sometimes you can brand so well, even in a particular area, that it does well. Cook Sheds did really good in our area. When I sold sheds, Cook Shed was such a dominant force in our area starting in 1986 that like when people come to us, they were like, what kind of shed you got here? Yeah. What kind of Cook Sheds are these? Yeah. And we were like, no, these aren't Cook Sheds. These are, you know, these are Summit. And they was like, I never heard of a Summit Cook Shed. Yeah. And I was like, no. You're you know, like, and then you have to explain it. And you're like, good for them. Yeah. That they just sort of like dominated that market so well. That's what people call it. So that's branding. Yeah. We start with that. And then after that, you know, it's creating we compare it to a shed. You have all these standalone options. A window's good, functional, does well by its own. So like sometimes, but a window might be equal to like, say, social media management. Mm-hmm. So somebody would contact us, say, you know, do you guys do social media management? And you're like, well, let's get down to what that means for you. Yeah. Let's talk about then like what we offer. Yeah. Because the biggest problem is like we all learn things differently. Yeah. So what you think? I
like how you guys have broken that down.
Yeah, you just have to you just have to say, well, let's build a shed and let's call that your digital assets. Like here's your branding and your guidelines. Then here's your website. Yeah. You know, and then if you have a website, that's kind of like your location here, right? Yeah. So like we would say something like, Travis, you got your lot here, and this is really cool. That's kind of like your website. So when people come to us and say, I want a brand new website. Yeah. Okay, awesome. I want that website so everybody can see it. And I'm like, well, now that's two different things. Yeah. We can create you a brand new website, and it's like creating a brand new shed lot. That's right. And putting it out in the middle of a cornfield that's 80 miles away from where anyone sees it. Yeah. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Just because you create a website, that doesn't mean it's not going to get seen. No, what you're talking about is search engine optimization. And then we got to go through all the details of SEO and like on-page SEO, off-page SEO, what's organic, what's paid, what's all these different things. So like that's your 4-lane highway. Yeah. That's what's bringing you to the website, just like the 4-lane highway is bringing you to the shed lot. Yeah. So we try to break it down that way. And then that's when we say, you could take a shotgun approach with Google ads and meta ads. And then there's all this conversion tracking that you can put in there that people that I work with are way smarter than me, can explain that in a way that really breaks it down to GA4 tags, which is Google tracking tags on, that way you're tracking keywords and different things that people are searching for Google. So you have to go through this whole maze. Yeah. And what we do is we just spend a lot of time in the customer acquisition phase of what we do, to explain it to people, so that they have an understanding. And then we also really talk about owning your digital assets. That's super important. One of the biggest things that we found that was a red flag for us was like companies that didn't own their data. Yeah. And now when they go to get away from that company, they can't get away from them because they own that data.
It's just so crazy.
And then they can't get it because they kind of capture you and say, you'll either work with us or you won't have your data. And it's like, wow. Like we would never do that. Hold you
hostage.
Yeah, it kind of holds you hostage. Like we want to make sure that people own their digital assets. That way, if they decide to get away from us, not that we want that, but that they can take all that data with them to their new company and work with them. So we're trying to work on a strong position of trust. So
love that.
I don't know a simple answer for your question. Like what would I want people to know? It's like whatever it is, it's just more education. And more education, because the more you learn about it, the better decision you can make, whether you use an in-house person for your marketing or whether you hire a third party like us or eImpact or Jim Mosier or James Mosman or anybody who's doing these things that I haven't mentioned here today. Like all of those companies are great companies to work with. Yeah. So like I think really it's just about figuring it out and then figuring out who jives with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So if someone's let's say you're a standalone dealer, maybe you're selling maybe let's just say $100,000 a month for an even round number, and you're making, let's again just use 10% as an even round number, commission on that. So you're making 10 grand a month on that. So $10,000 a month. Obviously, they've got rent coming out of that. They got electric. They got internet. They've got lot expenses. What would you say? What percentage-wise would you advise someone like that to spend on just straight-up marketing, paid marketing, whether it's paying someone to help them post more on social, whether it's paying someone to do meta ads, Google ads, or whether it's creating some really nice copy and putting it in a local newspaper or a magazine. There's plenty of other outlets to spend money on, but you got a percent in mind there, or is there a guideline there?
So me and Dylan love to go back and forth on this in a friendly way. He has seen a lot of success in marketing even before working in the shed industry, and running very large campaigns and paid ad campaigns and different things like that. But as a general rule, whether it's inside of sheds or outside of sheds, I always like to suggest 4% of gross revenue should be moved towards a marketing
towards acquiring new clients.
Yes. Yeah. Now, with that being said, if you're like, okay, well then if I'm doing 100,000 a month, I'm doing 1.2 a year. So I need to take 1.2 a year times 4%. That's what I need to put toward my marketing budget. You may not need that. So it really depends on where you are in your process. If you already have a website, it's new and it's able to handle conversion tracking and you've got those tags on there. If not, there's a setup fee to get those things going so that you can collect that data. Because, whether we like this or not, like Google and Facebook, they're capturing data from us every day, all day long.
Yeah, right.
They know your credit score, right? They know where you live. They know the places you shop. They know where you go. What are your habits, and things like that. Because we're tracked every day, all day. I'm not saying I embrace those things, but I am saying that we like all others use that data. We extract that data to target your customers, which is essentially what you're doing. You're trying to get when you put a banner out front, or if you see somebody come in and you're like, hey, tell all your neighbors about me or whatever, you're trying to figure out who might buy. In a direct mail campaign, you might be trying to do the same thing. They're just doing it in the digital era. And while I don't like it, it's here, it exists, and that data is being collected on us at all times now. Data has passed the oil in terms of the most precious commodity that people are in search of.
Oh, interesting.
So oil, while oil led in for years in terms of being the most valuable commodity, now what people want is information. So everyone's trying to track what drives human behavior.
Yeah.
Like you would like to know
yeah.
what makes a person buy versus not buying.
That's right.
And then that
would be the ticket.
Yeah. And it just, so they're just trying to find the shortcut to that.
Yeah.
While you can't probably find the exact moment, maybe it was 5 to 7 touch points. Maybe it was that particular email campaign that you sent out that made them go ahead and purchase. Staying top of mind is very key. It's what I tell my advertisers all the time. If they're like, why should I advertise on the Shed Geek podcast? People know who I am. I'm like, of course, people know who you are. Yep. But why not stay top of mind? That way they think of you instead of the competition.
Yep.
Right. Whenever it comes time to buy, you're just another touch point.
Yep.
And that's why I always say, we were never have been trying to threaten like any other advertising agency, because we're like, we want to be an addition to what you're already doing.
Yeah.
I would just say, it's super important to understand those things and how they work.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time educating, talking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I mean, I think there's I think that's super helpful there's so many people that they know everything about the delivery side of it or the manufacturing side of it. And then the marketing side of it's just not something that they're that excited about. That's not just their passion. And I think that's very, instead of just going and grabbing their money and convincing them to buy this package or that package, actually taking some time to sit down with them and educate them. So good on y'all for that.
Hello from the Shed Geek. Let's take a walk through My Shed 3D. With My Shed 3D, your company can simply add a 3D builder button to its website. Once the customer clicks onto the 3D builder button, they will enter some basic information to get started. Remember, this information is captured in your Leads tab, whether or not the customer designs a building. This is very valuable information that turns a cold call into a warm lead. Next, they begin the design of their shed by selecting a primary use, a style, and a size that best fits their need. My Shed 3D has multiple styles that are available and consistent with traditional and barn styles within the shed industry. However, if you offer a customized or non-traditional style, My Shed Solutions can build that design for future use. We can also save on some design features that make it easy to adjust without a major rebuild or added fees for design changes. For instance, want to offer a steeper roof pitch? Just navigate to the Settings tab. Then click the Building Models. Click Edit Building and just enter the new roof center height, and the design changes will reflect on this style option. This will save you thousands versus traditional design changes that need to build a whole new style to match your design. From here, simply choose the style, siding, and color. Then choose a trim and roofing style and color. Next, let's add a door. That was goofy. Next, let's add a door. It is required to add a door to move forward with the design, as at least one ingress-egress option is necessary. Then add some design changes for personalization. Maybe some windows, or a porch, or some interior shelving. Next, just click Save Design and the customer will receive an automated text with all the features of the design to the email address entered at the beginning. From here, they can edit the design, view the details of the design, pay now to order the shed, or click Rent to Own to complete the necessary steps to purchase a shed they designed with My Shed 3D. The design enters the admin panel as a quote, and this is where the manufacturer can update the progress of the design once a deposit is taken. My Shed, from design to delivery, we have you covered.
What are you doing right now outside of work? Got anything you're loving outside of work?
I collect baseball cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's maybe, but not a lot. I've collected sports cards, mainly baseball, on and off for years, but never really in a professional manner.
Okay,
I just kind of hobby collect.
Yeah. Baseball cards had their moment a little bit. Beginning of COVID, kind of.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it was really hot. It might still be kind of hot.
If you're collecting for the purpose of trying to turn a profit, yes, it's a totally different thing than a hobby collecting.
I see.
And I like to hobby collect just because I grew up watching sports and particularly grew up watching baseball. Outside of that, everything's family. Me and Deanna travel together. Troy's with us now. I'm loving seeing Troy kind of find himself in technology, ministry, work, the whole thing. And we're not hurrying him, and we're telling him to do it, all that in God's timing. My daughter is married, and my first grandbaby's due next month. Probably about 5 weeks away, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah,
that's probably the biggest thing on my mind.
Baby.
Yes, but outside of that, sadly, I used to take probably a little bit more time outside of work to enjoy a little bit more. My probably my challenge right now is because I'm so busy and busy all the time. Whether it be marketing, RTO, podcast, doesn't matter. There's a conversation. I probably log 3 hours a day on the phone. You think more? 4?
Dan, it's like
maybe
times 2, maybe.
So I spend a lot of time building relationships, and not all of those turn into business, but some do. Yeah. But the relationship's still there, whether it's business or not. Yeah. So like I need to be available to talk to people who are friends of mine in the industry. Relationships. So this shed industry has kind of given me a lot of purpose in that. Yeah. I have more friends inside the industry than I do outside the industry. Yeah. So I know more people in this business than I know outside it.
That's cool.
So it revolves a big part of our life. The travel is a big thing for us. We love being able to go and see places and things that just we wouldn't otherwise be provided the opportunity.
Went over to Magnolia earlier today.
Magnolia, went to Dealey Plaza to see where JFK was shot. Went to Stockyards. We're going to a rodeo.
Amazing.
So like those things are cool when you're out and about.
You get to kind of integrate that with your work,
with family,
with your family, with
family
work.
And work is it all. Now the downside of that is you don't know when you're working and when you're not. When I'm at home, I think, it's tough.
But I actually think a lot more that's going to be happening in the near future, where it's just this mesh of your life.
Yeah,
and it's like. And work is really just life too.
Well, I enjoy it,
but it's not. We're just continuing to further move away from that industrial age, that 9 to 5 thing. I mean, I think there will always be a 9 to 5 because there's assembly lines and factory work. But I think that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful way to live your life. Now, some people wouldn't like that because they do want distinct hours.
Or cost. And I told Deanna today we were going over to the silos and we went to eat and visit Magnolia and all that stuff. And I was like, this trip is going to cost. Yeah. I mean, there's a big bill at the end of it that you got to pay for your all everything that you had to do, eating, you know what I'm saying? Like merchandise, stuff you give away, food, gas, lodging, all of those things. But I told her, I said, as long as we break even and then slowly grow, that's always really cool. But even if you broke even, I was like, what a cool thing to do.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, if we're not just, making money hand over fist, but like we break even, but we have all these experiences.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's a really cool thing for us in life to be able to look back on and say, we started this journey whenever we was 15 years old. Yeah. And now look at us, right? So right. Like doing all these
everything
things.
You just described is like people's vacations.
Yeah.
Coming down to the Fort Worth Stockyards is people's vacations. Coming to Magnolia is people's vacations. And you were just able to do some of that stuff along with work.
Yeah.
Which is, I think is really, I know you had a dream of being able to take the family and drive around and do interviews. And you're doing that now, which I think is
it took a little bit of time to make it happen.
A dream realized.
But then, they added so much value to it, bringing them in. I was like, wow, it just worked.
Yeah.
I really feel like God blessed it. And I think we always just need to make sure to point to, as long as we point to him as the sovereign opportunity giver here to allow us to do that. And obedience is greater than sacrifice, the word says. And I think that if we are just obedient, that sometimes you may sacrifice something now, but you get something possibly much, much better, much grander later. Yeah. And I feel like I've been given that to have my family go along with me on these opportunities. So, and then just the genuine friendship that exists in the industry. There's some friends I have in this industry I'll never work with in business, and I still communicate with them regularly. Just even to use them as a conscious check for myself, to just contact them and be like, hey, look at this situation and tell me what you see.
Yeah.
Unbiased.
Yeah.
because I don't work with you. There's no anything here, and they'll give me a true opinion, and I appreciate those folks, that inner circle that I sort of talk to on those different things. And I won't mention them by name, but they know who they are. So
that's a privilege and a blessing to have those people in your life to help you guide the ship.
I think as much as I enjoy it, eventually, I will want to be able to take a little bit more time for family, kids, especially as they show up. And then I think it'd be really cool if I can. I don't know what the long-term vision is for the show.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's really fun and cool to do now, and I don't see myself slowing down. I don't see the content slowing down. I was going to make that comment earlier. It always amazes me whenever people are like, well, you're going to run out of people to talk to. And I'm like, man, we're all unique.
Yeah.
We're all unique. So as long as somebody's willing to sit down with the mic, I promise you there's conversation and dialogue that can happen that will bless people's day.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, you've named it Shed Geek Podcast, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to always be talking to people inside the industry. Not. I think you've done some great episodes with people outside the industry that bring value in and give some great outside perspective. When you can kind of step back.
Faith-based. Drug and alcohol rehab. You asked me earlier about that, and that's a calling that was on my life that's still there, and it's nagging me to eventually be able to do something. And if I can ever use this platform to be able to do something to create that to the point to where God says, you've satisfied that calling. We tried to create in Southern Illinois something that would kind of help families. It never did come to fruition, whether it be my fault or others, egos, struggles, just whatever happens, but it's still there, because those callings don't go away until they're fulfilled, and that, and I don't know, maybe down the road if I ever get a chance to do prison ministry again, I was really passionate about that, and I love that, but outside of that, man, I'm pretty simple, honestly. Actually, it's much simpler than you might think if you meet me.
Yeah, that's the season I'm in right now too. Just raising kids and trying to grow the business and creating friendships and building relationships with both my kids, growing, working on our marriage, working on a relationship with Christ and my greater family, our personal family, her family, it's pretty simple for us too right now.
Easy life whenever you keep it simple. We don't party. We don't, we just kind of, I don't know, like we enjoyed going down with the other grandparents to be, our son-in-law's parents. We really get along with them really good. We went down to Cancun with them.
Oh, cool.
And they had asked us to go. They go every year, and we had never been, and we were like, what are we getting ourselves into? Had to get a passport, never been out of the country, that kind of thing. And so it's really fun to be grandparents with them, knowing that's coming along. So
is it their first grandchild?
Be their first grandchild.
Oh, that's cool. You guys get to share that together.
We get along really good. Love them.
That's huge.
So we had fun there, but responsible fun or whatever. So we're too old for all the nonsense. But,
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So, but just a pretty simple life that. Maybe we can shine some love on the conservative life. A little bit, that it's not so bad. That's right. We also don't deal with a lot of the struggles. That you deal with whenever you go out and seek alternative lifestyles.
That's right.
So
that's right. Any podcasts right now that you're enjoying? I know we talked about that a little briefly earlier.
Rob Jepson, I really like listening to him. It's a sales podcast, but he just
Rod Jepson.
Rob, RB.
Okay.
Yeah. He has about 40,000 listeners, I think, on his podcast. And I don't know. I just love listening to him and the guests that he has on there. A couple tidy home podcasts and things like that I'll follow. But it's hard. I understand, trust me, when people say I don't catch every episode, because I can't catch every episode of even people that I enjoy listening to.
Do you find yourself, getting on the phone when you're driving and listening to a podcast? I find myself literally waiting sometimes. If I know I'm going to go somewhere, I'll say, hey, let me call you, in an hour, and then I got 30 minutes of uninterrupted time, and I'll talk to you while I'm driving.
That's right. No, I love it. Whenever I'm driving, it makes perfect sense. So when I say I burn up the phone, I mean, I know a lot of people can't stand talking on the phone. they prefer text, and of course I'm not going to text while I'm driving. But for me, it's easier just to pick up the phone. The downside is I will be tempted to continue to talk.
Yeah.
Because I love conversation, both talking and listening.
Yeah.
I enjoy both.
Yeah.
So
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it's I don't know. We didn't have a particular agenda. Sitting down and talking. We just wanted to talk about something that would add value, hopefully, to somebody's day today. Yeah. And I think that's all we did. Somehow it turned into an interview for me, but hey, that worked out good.
That's good. That's good. I mean, you're always the one asking questions, so hopefully there's some new stuff that you haven't covered already in a previous episode that people got value out of.
Well, I want to say I always appreciate your dedication to your staff, to your family, to your work, to God. I see it through your work. You're always so available to come on the podcast, and it means a lot. I think you add a lot of value. I think I've said it before, and I'll say again, you are the guy I think of whenever I'm like, man, what if I could ever have a successor, if that's what you want to call it, or someone who would kind of who would mimic what I feel like is the essence of what I try to provide in education through entertainment on the podcast. You're definitely that guy. You've always been super professional, super encouraging, and I thank you for that. I think you add a lot of value to this industry too, even if you're not on a podcast, and maybe we can get you on there more so people can see that. But you're always professional, and it's just super appreciated that you come on and do these things. So.
You bet, man. Thanks so much. That's really kind. It's always a blast. It's a kind of a new thing for me to learn, and I enjoy conversation. I love meeting new people. I love hearing their stories too, and love what you're up to. So thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm happy to come on anytime. Happy to co-host anytime. If you and Deanna need to take off for a week and you want to burn up some podcast or do some episodes, need a fill-in guy, I'm happy to step in.
Let's make it happen, man. I'll get out of here. Appreciate you. I think we're going to go back to the RV park, and
perfect.
We're going to head to Dallas tomorrow.
Nice.
All right.
Got some big stuff in D-Town.
I'm ready.
Yep.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, good chatting with you, brother.
You too. Thanks,
right.
Travis.
Yep.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford in sunny Union Grove, North Carolina, and we want to say thank you to all the guests and listeners.